So for the purpose of the recording, I'm sorry, I always forget that little piece. The question that I posed to the group is how can we best articulate the value proposition of training, education, and professional development programs within the federal government and showcase how these programs contribute to a more capable, adaptable, and agile workforce. One of the comments included, looking at our 5 bullets and how do we state those 5 bullets to showcase that, looking at utilizing training needs assessments and learner needs assessments to continue to move ourselves forward, and then aligning training with mission. And one of the things that Denise brought up just now is that, looking at those smile sheets, and a lot of what you said, Denise, is correct. A lot of us only use those smile sheets, looking at how is the training going as we're doing it in the current state. And then did anyone like the training, and getting those smile sheets back, those end of course surveys back. But how many of us really go forth and conduct those level 3 and level 4 Kirkpatrick model items and really push forward that behavior and to get that impact and those results aspect? Denise, I see your hand up again.
I just wanted to add to that traditionally training is looked at as a cost. It is considered overhead. And so we have our heads on the chopping block first whenever there are cuts to be made. But what we need to do, that's why it's imperative that training departments show that they are not a cost, but an investment, that they are business partners with the other stakeholders in the organization, especially the operational leaders within the organization. They need to show that training is not just a cost, but rather an investment in efficiency and effectiveness. Because if we just throw people at something without any skill sets to do the work and do it well, that's where we end up having a lot of inefficiencies and ineffectiveness that end up getting cut even more greatly.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. That is true. Training should always be looked at as an investment. And how are we voicing that? How are we convincing our leadership that this is an investment, not just a cost, but an investment? Adam.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. No, I agree with what Denise said. And something that I've been advocating now for a few years is that we need to show the value of training with regards to knowledge continuity. The federal workforce is an aging workforce, but yet very experienced. So how do we intend to capture that knowledge, the institutional knowledge, and carry it forward? Because not only is it a good practice, but also we need that knowledge so that we're not posing that undue taxpayer burden. We talk about efficiency all the time. It's not efficient if we don't have a knowledge continuity plan. And, one of the things that I see is like, oh, well, I've been doing this for, 15, 20, 30 years, which is great. But how do we capture your institutional knowledge that you bring to work every day and carry it on after you decide to make your, whatever future career moves? And I think that goes for a myriad of different positions. So it's something I want to throw out there.
No, that's awesome. I like that. Thank you. Some agencies, organizations do community practices where they try and get that institutional knowledge. But like you said, sometimes it's hard. How many of those that have been in the agency or the organization for 30 years are willing to share their knowledge? And that's the other piece of that is trying to pull that out of them. No, right. Thank you for bringing it up.
No problem. One last thing to add to that is like something that I see even as we go, back to campuses, and there's the live training sessions, with the synchronous delivery. People don't even want to use speaker notes, but they don't understand that the speaker notes aren't just for them. They're to capture, what is the essence that you're trying to explain, and that way you can have a degree of consistency cohort by cohort with the information that you're provided. And professionals that aren't necessarily in the learning and design background, they don't really understand that. But it's a constant challenge, I guess, that I'm experiencing. I don't know if anybody else.
I see that as well. I do see that as well. Thank you. I appreciate that. Shanda.
Okay, sorry, it took me a second to unmute. So along the same lines of what Denise was saying with training as an investment, we're in a culture or not really a culture, but in a time of great change right now, right, within our agencies. There's a lot of there's a lot of reorganization, and training is the most valuable tool to be able to reskill individuals who are moving into other positions. And I think that can't be lost in that adaptability and agile uh, element of training. And, Denise is right. The training organization is usually the first one that experience cuts, but we can't we can't expect individuals to move into another position without some kind of training. So I think it is a definitely value add and something that we need to focus on in the coming months, and hopefully not years, but coming months.
Thank you. Yeah, that reskilling, that upskilling, two key words that had been floating around for at least at my agency, like really taking hold over the past, even though it's been here for years, people really weren't starting to take notice of reskilling and upskilling until it became, commonplace to use those words, and for training to really start going, okay, we don't just need to focus on, what we need to do now, but we really need to start focusing on the future. And then, as you mentioned, Shanda, with all the changes, us being in a time of change, hopefully just for the next few months rather than the next few years, that focus needs to be rediverted to that reskilling and upskilling because of the reorganizations. Just by a show of hands, how many federal agencies are here that have gone through loss of people due to either early retirements or the DRP or the various layoffs? I see some thumbs ups. Yep. Yeah. So there's a lot of us. I see that the hands are still going up. Thumbs up are still going up. Yeah. So there's a lot of us that have to deal with that. And with that, as Shanda mentioned, there's going to be a reorg coming soon if it hasn't started yet. Are they going in the right place? Do they have the knowledge to really move forward? Again, that comes back to training. We are valuable. Our positions are needed. We need to be there to be able to upskill or reskill those individuals and make sure we're bringing on board the right information. Doris, I see your hand is still up. Did you want to add? Oh, I guess not. What other thoughts do you have? What other comments? What other questions do you have? As we're looking at this one question, what questions do you have that you want to post to the group? Shanda.
So I didn't catch who said it earlier, but the person who was talking about doing a needs assessment at this time in their organization, I know you said you don't have the needs assessment information back, but could you explain a little bit about that assessment and how you were able to implement it, showing the value of training?
That would be John.
Yeah, forgive me for a second. I can actually pull some of it up. So we looked at it through a couple of lenses, through a technical side and then kind of the soft skill side. So we were able to provide, okay, these are the courses that we currently provide, and some of them were mandated, right? Like a new supervisor orientation, new employee orientation, but then offered, hey, what other stuff? So for our investigators, do they want interviewing? For our folks that are auditors or healthcare auditors, do they want writing classes? But what we really did is leave a lot of open space for them to put in what they want or what they're really seeing. And that's why we're going to be hopefully on like the back end run some data and go like, how are we clumping some of these together? Which is a little bit different, than at least in learning needs kind of assessments that I've done in the past. I guess like the main thing that we're really looking for is just some feedback. And we're a small organization. I mean, we're 12, well, no, not anymore. Still over 1,000, but not, we're tiny, we're pretty small. But we're really looking at, how can we meet them both where they're at, professionally and technically, as we're kind of seeing some writing on the wall where we're thinking it's going to be a much more of a technical focus in the future and maybe a little bit less on kind of the soft skill leadership development side, leading, managing. But we used Microsoft Forms specifically, created it just to be 10 questions, no more, no less. And we're looking forward to getting some of that feedback. Actually, next week, we start kind of analyzing everything. But if you'd like, I mean, you can easily, I'll put my email in the chat if someone wants more information or to have a different conversation about it. Sorry, that's about all I have.
No, that's
Thank
good.
you.
Thank
That's
you.
very helpful.
Yeah, thank you for that question, Shanda. Over at DISA, we do a needs assessment as well for our technical folks, for our cyberspace personnel, to determine how many certifications they need, which certifications they are. And for us, because we're globally dispersed, what location are they located in, particularly which time zone? And we also use Microsoft Forms to gather that information, just because it uploads it nicely into a nice chart that we can easily manipulate to determine numbers. We don't do that enough. I will say that that's a practice that we haven't really done enough. And I think a lot of us are in that same boat where we don't do enough training needs assessments. And that really can help boil down that, are we capable? Do the people have what they need? Are we adaptable? Are we agile? Are we able to shift? Are we able to upskill? Are we able to reskill? What do we need to bring on board in order to do that? Especially with a lot of us going through a reorganization or restructuring or a reshaping. I've heard many different phrases used because a lot of people don't want to use the word reorg anymore because it's been used so much within their organizations. But are we ready for that to happen? When is the best time to run a needs assessment or a training assessment? John.
I swear I'm not trying to monopolize. I just have a question. I'm curious if anybody's offering any type of, virtual or perhaps even some face-to-face trainings, kind of on like what's going on, not like executive order wise, but, how do you take care of yourself? How do you take care of your folks? How do you navigate change? How do you prepare for the unknown, unknowable? Just kind of curious if you've had an opportunity to do that, or if you're looking to do that.
Tricia. Is that how your name is pronounced, Dr. Tricia?
Yeah, Trisha, it's fine.
Tricia. Got it.
Yeah, so we just had we're having our IT cybersecurity summit. And with that, of course, we know that we're not able to use PLA funds anymore or developmental funds. So, or even for travel, right? For those who want to travel. And we recognize that we have subject matter experts as well who needs credits that they need for their role. And what we've done with the summit is we try to accredit the summit so that those who need CPEs and CEUs are able to get that, because typically in a regular year they would have funds that they can do external training to meet those. Although our summit may not meet all their requirement, but at least I think they can get half of those credited. So that's how we've been trying to help the folks in our organization, meet their training needs and meet their certification needs at the same time.
Awesome. And I think, Shan, I think you sent an email to TOC recently of something that Caroline was doing.
Yes, so I'd have to pull that up, but yes, Caroline Donnelly is one of our TOC participants, and she and a co-facilitator are working on, I think it's, what is it called?
Well-Fed Wednesdays.
Well-Fed Wednesdays, yes, and I can put that link in here. It's a free, there you go. It's a free opportunity, 45-minute lunch and learn series that she and her co-facilitator are offering to, yeah, there you go. If you sign up for them, you can also get the recordings from previous, but I think this is a fabulous idea, for individuals who are in their current situation to really have an opportunity to discuss with others. But yeah, I can put that link in the chat, or if you already have it up, Joy, if you can put it in the chat, that'd be great.
So yeah, and that's another thing why I love TFC so much. It goes back to that vision of, networking, best practices, helping us all share and learn. And I completely forgot about this until John asked that question of what is everyone else doing? And that is she's put out like a wonderful thing. And again, she's got dates up there from the rest of this month through next month as well. And I'm pretty sure they'll continue to keep this updated.
Yeah, I haven't. I've signed up for them, but haven't had a chance to actually attend. So I plan on going back and listening to the recordings. So, like I said, that's always an option.
Yep. Akia.
So I was just gonna ask, if you send like a follow-up email after this event, would you mind putting that link in that email so that we can catch it that way as well?
Will do.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. All right. Any other questions, thoughts of this first question? Any other comments anyone has that they'd like to bring up, or something that they're facing within their own agency and they're not sure how to address it? Denise.
Joy, I just wanted to mention that actually earlier in February, I did a webinar with Jack Phillips specifically on proving the value of your training programs and being able to collect the evidence to be able to protect your budget in training and show that training is an essential part, and just the building blocks of what you need to do to build up a strategy to your evaluation methods so that you can have the information you need, the benchmarking, for example, against high performing organizations that have a learning culture, showing that those top performing agencies prioritize learning as a strategic asset, and how you can start to put together a plan so that you can collect that kind of information. And it starts with also showing that there is a need for training. So that needs assessment is critical. But it's also about when you provide the need, when you satisfy that need, what is the expected outcome? And, being able to show how trained employees outperform others is just one metric, that you could consider. You're looking for anything that are efficiency gains or how the professional development programs for employees allowed them to pivot so that they could address the new needs of the organization after it's gone through changes.
Okay. Thank you, Denise. Yeah, exactly. And as your organizations are going to be restructuring over the next few months, or by the time the dust mostly settles, because I don't think it'll ever really truly settle. But as you start going through that organization, then that comes time to have those key conversations with your leadership. What are the needs now that we've restructured? Now that you've gone down from this many people to this many people. Now that we've introduced other aspects and added to the mission, of each individual organization, what are those upskilling needs? And then once you get that information, be able to write down, okay, what are the outcomes? Like, how do we meet these needs? And what are the expected outcomes of those needs? That way you can really define, if we push this training out and we did push it out, did we meet the necessary outcomes after the training? 6 months down the road, a year down the road, are we continuing to meet those outcomes? Thank you. We're going to go ahead and look at, if there's nothing else on this question, I'm going to pose a second question for us to take a look at. So in the face, and our wonderful orders that we love so much, in the face of the executive orders and the various memorandums that have come out to all the different agencies and all the different departments regarding the reduction of force, cost efficiency initiative, removal of various offices, how can we expand upon our current best practices or leverage other L&D offices across the federal government to meet the needs of our workforce? So as we looked at that agile environment as what we needed to do, what are some of those things that we should look at doing to make sure we're adaptable and agile? How do we, utilize best practices and leverage, our own communities to be able to move forward? What are your thoughts on that? And take about 2 minutes to think about that one. Or more if you need more. Does anyone have any thoughts? Yes, Shanda.
So for us, our in the cost efficiency initiative, our longstanding coaching program contract was eliminated. We had about 130 individuals on that in that program, and it's a valuable developmental tool and a personal development tool. So we're trying to find another way to offer that kind of opportunity to the individuals in our organization. And we're leveraging a service that our organization does have an agreement with that offers coaching within for coaches within the federal service. So coaches who are federal employees are with the Treasury Executive Institute, and we have a service contract with them. So through them, we can offer our individuals coaching services. So we had to think a little more. I mean, we'd always had a coaching program. I was coaching program manager, and we had to think creatively on how we would offer something like this, especially in this time. Having a coach is really valuable. So that's one way that we leveraged another opportunity for our organization.
Wonderful. I like that idea. We have the there's the Veteran Coaching was it Institute that's fed wide that you can jump in on as well. We also have a coaching program. Luckily, ours hasn't been cut yet, so we're still pushing forward with ours. But yeah, that's a great thought. You know, look at what does another organization have, and can you jump on board with them? Andrew.
Yeah, hi, I'm Andrew Emery with the regulatory group. One of the things that we have seen is that just given the cut in the staffing of the agencies and also contractor support, it seems that agencies are desperately looking for training on some of their primary functions. And of course, our area is in the regulatory space for the regulatory agencies, which is most agencies. And just sort of as an example, we did 2 webinars recently. They're just half-hour, free webinars, just because we were getting the sense that people were anxious and wanted, some understanding of things that are going on in the regulatory space. And the first one had over 500 people within less than 24 hours register. We just gave 1 week's notice. We do training all the time, and normally we will publicize something months in advance. This was only a half hour and it was free, but within 24 hours we had over 500 people, and we didn't have capacity for more than 1,000, so we cut it off once it went over 1,000, and then we did another one for a half hour. So the first one was just on all the deregulatory executive orders, and then the next one was on how to handle public comments in rulemaking. And a lot of the agencies are getting ready to do a lot of comments analyses for a lot of rulemakings right now. And that one, again, we gave like less than a week of notice, and we had over 500 people for that one. So I do think training that helps people understand some of their primary functions, because people are very anxious, particularly since they've lost a lot of their support in-house and contractor support. Thanks.
Thank you. And I'm loving what I'm seeing in the chat. So Andrew, thank you for that. Yeah, that especially with the reshaping and restructuring, a lot of people might be moving into new areas. So they might not know, as I think it was Shannon that brought up before, that reskilling. They might not know what their primary functions are, let alone how to do it. So that's definitely something that, leveraging quick microbite sessions, 30-minute sessions, will really gravitate towards a lot of people that are pressed for time. And you throw out a 30-minute, working session or a 30-minute session on a particular skill, you're going to get a lot of people. So, the fact that you had over 500 people, launch their enrollments, their registrations for a 30-minute session, kind of, especially if you've got a large organization, you need to be prepared for that, possibly entertain the idea of having 2 or 3 iterations of it. But wow, that's impressive. Thank you. Appreciate that. And I'm loving what I'm seeing in the chat. Yeah, the federal coaching, that is out there. And I thought all the federal agencies were aware of it. So thank you for putting that information out there, so that everyone else can come on board. And yeah, it is free to anyone of any grade level within the federal government. And there are federal court coaches that have been certified, just as my thing keeps moving on me. Much like Doris had mentioned, you get certified through ICF, and then you can be a coach for anyone within the federal government. Anyone in the federal government can jump on board that. On top of that, one of our coaching program coordinator, Nicole Mead, she runs a coaching chat and chew. So I will actually, once I think I'm going to be sending out an email with a lot of links after today's session. And that is open to anyone within the federal government as well. And that's conducted on MS Teams. And that's coaches and clients that take part in that coaching chat and chew. All right. Any other thoughts, questions? I see your information there. And there was cost of TEI.
Yeah, John had just asked, because I mentioned TEI, Treasury Executive Institute, what the cost was for an agency, but I don't know. It's an organizational service agreement.
Gotcha. Okay. And yeah, exactly, Denise. I see your chat there too. Communities of practice, things that, something like today, where we're just, restructure today's pain point relief to focus on more what we're dealing with right now, and trying to leverage our collective information. See, what are some of those key things that we can do? This is something you can also open up within your own organizations, as as was brought up earlier. How do I get that knowledge, retain that knowledge, that institution knowledge, to have that knowledge continuity throughout your organization? You can hold those types of community practice to do that as well. Lunch and learns, like the well-fed wellness, things like that. As Andrew mentioned, they do those 30-minute sessions. That's something that you can bring within your organizations. That's something you can network with the TOC. What are you doing in your organization? Can I bring on a board? Can we share lesson plans? And one of the things that I think it was John that mentioned that, when we share those lesson plans, having those speakers notes available, because a lot of us understand speaker notes are key. Personalize it to how I speak, personalize it to some of my own background stories, and use my stories within that. But make sure I'm hitting those speakers notes so I don't miss the body and the content of the information we're trying to display. Any other thoughts? Any other questions? Concerns? Things you just want to get off your chest or off your shoulders? Denise?
I just want to add that knowing the people that I know on this call, I just wanted to first say I value you. Your work is valuable. I just want to make sure that you all know that. And I also want everyone to know, as a contractor to the federal government, we're also experiencing similar challenges within. I'm in a small business, and we had cutbacks, and for a small business, losing a contract can be catastrophic. So I just wanted you to know that I think that this particular group of people and the people I know at TOC are the people who do promote resilience through change. It's being well trained that helps you to overcome change and be able to pivot. When you feel like you have skills and talents to fall back on is when you're able to say, this is okay, because when years ago I worked for Lockheed Martin, and when I did, Norm Augustine was the CEO at the time, and he said, if you want to be loyal to your organization, be loyal to your career growth, because then you will always be able to show that you have something to offer, and you'll always land somewhere where people can use the skills that you have. So I always remember that, and try to make sure that I'm always bringing value wherever I am, so that regardless of what the situation is, I'll be ready to pivot. And I think that that's what the people at TOC do, and I think that's what they promote in federal agencies. So we have a lot of smart people. I think that they're going to all be fine. So hang in there.
Thank you, Denise. And I think I speak for everyone on the call that you do know. We appreciate that, and right back at you. So we do value everyone, not just those that are on the board, but every member of the TOC and every person that you bring in, be it federal employee, one of our contractors, one of the vendors, one of the members of academia or the various institutions that support what we do. We love you guys all, and we appreciate a lot of the flexibility that we've all been maneuvering around as things are canceled, as we lose people to, you know, DRPs, firings, layoffs, Vera Visa, whatever they're calling it now. But we appreciate this opportunity where we can come together and really voice some of our thoughts, voice some of our opinions, and continue to leverage each other's knowledge as we continue to move forward within the L&D arena. Because as you all said, and as we all know, whenever there's a budget cut, whenever there's a CR, whenever there's a cost efficiency initiative, training is always the first one to go. And Doris, great question. I'm going to put together an email after today's session, and I'm going to have it sent out to everyone that's on today's call. That will include the links for the Well-Fed Wellness, a couple additional notes, as well as the chat and chew information, and anything that I have that is available to the rest of the Fed. Our organization also has a mentoring community of practice that I believe is open Fed-wide, that our mentoring program coordinator sends out as well. And those are also via MS Teams. If that is Fed-wide, if I should just do DOI, I'll make sure that's in there as well. Any other thoughts, comments on how we can expand our current best practices that has not been brought up yet? Relatively quiet group today. Trying to see if we brought up everything. We talked about the community practices, creating them, or joining one that's currently out there. I'll send out the chat and chew, as well as including our mentoring. I think it's called Mentoring in Motion that we send out. The Well-Fed Wellness Lunch and Learns. If anyone has any other free, or whether it's industry that's putting it out, whether it's one of the vendors that's putting out, whether it's one of the organizations putting out, if anyone has any of that knowledge or information that we can attend or we can send our employees to because it's free for the masses, please let us know. I know Franklin Covey did a conference, a virtual conference not too long ago, and through the TOC newsletters. If I learn of something, I will try and let Lanier know so that we can put that in the next newsletter. Any other thoughts?
Joy, I was having trouble finding my raise my hand thing, but this is regarding that Franklin Covey online, they did record it and the recordings are available. So,
yeah.
Okay.
That is true. And Andrew, I'm going to put my, as soon as I remember my last name, my email address. In there. So if you get wind of something, you can email me or you can send it to information at info@trainingofficers.org. So that is a great question, Dora. So there's a number of people that are in the DRP that have had to turn in their government equipment and no longer have access to their government email address. So for registered members of the TOC, depending on which organization you come from, if they let you keep your registration membership, you could just email info@trainingofficers.org and let them know. In some cases, an organization, so make sure you check with your organization. In some cases, an organization will take that membership and then transfer it to someone else within their organization. For any of these free items that we have, anyone that's listed here if your email address that you use to register is not your Gov address, just let me know, or info@trainingofficers.org, and we'll make sure you get that information. And yes, if you're not able to see the chat at the same time as the screen, if you'd like to be listed as a resource for a TC community in the next newsletter, please let Lanier know, and she put her email address in there as well. Any other thoughts, questions, comments? Adam.
Yep, I had my hand up. I heard somebody made mention at the very beginning. I had to step away for a second, so I didn't hear it entirely, about the 5 bullet points. And I know in this one you're talking about the executive orders and memorandums. Something that I've seen that I think is really helpful is to look at AI, and in particular Chat GPT. And whenever you're thinking of, like, I use it in broad terms. I don't put what I specifically work on or who's involved or anything like that, but just in broad general terms, I put those into AI. And then I also ask it to look at my agency's mission and values and its vision. And then I ask it to look at how those align with the executive orders issued since January 20th, 2025. And then have it spit out 5 concise bullet points. And I mean, I don't know what anybody else wants to do, but I've found that extremely helpful. So in relation to the prompt, with the executive orders and memorandums, it shows specifically how you're aligning, the work that you do on a weekly basis to directly support the vision of the administration. So just kind of wanted to throw that out there. And if anybody has any questions on it, I'd be, happy to elaborate more.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And for those of you, depending on your agency, you're not permitted to access Chat GPT. There is Nipper GPT that you should be able to access from your government computer. I work at DISA, and DISA locks down almost every website, but I'm able to access Nipper GPT. So I think if I can access it from my government computer, I think almost any other agency can as well.
Can you include that in the information you're sharing, Joy?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
Of course. All right. Any other thoughts, comments, concerns? Oh, by the ways, what do we think of today's session? Wow, silence. Today's format, today's session, what are your thoughts on that? I see thumbs ups. Anyone have a verbal comment they'd like to make about today's session? Nice
Sorry,
to see you too.
something's going on with my thing, but the last thing I'll say, thanks to the person who talked about what he does for his 5 bullet points. I would just say, when you're thinking about these things, think about I guess how businesses think, like data driven. So include some kind of data, like how the person mentioned 500 people signed up immediately within a week. Like, that information is important. Think about how people applied the trainings. What kind of reactions have you seen? Any differences, any changes in their behavior based on the trainings that they took? And think about qualitative kind of information, quantitative kind of information. A lot of people talk about data storytelling, or storytelling, like when you're in front of an audience, and include some kind of stories or something like that. Like, be as business focused. A person talked a lot about efficiencies and things like that. That's another kind of business focused type thing. But I think, like, keep your language but change it. And I think the person who talked about Chat GPT kind of hit on that, because you might think, like, I don't know, they just word things differently, that you might not have thought of that specific word and they can frame it in a business type kind of way. And I think the people that are kind of thinking about our jobs and things, they're thinking about the business value of what we do. And so that's why I would say those kind of comments. All right, thanks.
Appreciate that. I really do appreciate that. Now, just because I'm asking what you thought about the session doesn't mean I'm completely done. I see a lot of thank yous and I appreciate that. And another question I have.
Sorry, and I like the session too.
And so I'm taking a lot of these thank yous and good discussions as something we'd like to see moving forward, more community practice type within the TOC to really harness that, leveraging of knowledge that we share across the board, and then target each one with a different key topic. Tricia, I see your hand up.
Yes, I just wanted to piggyback on what she had mentioned just now about thinking about the bullet points. I usually say, what's the purpose of, for instance, a project you've been working on and the successes. What's the purpose of it? What were the action, and what did you do, and what was the outcome, and what was the impact? So just put it in those bullet points, and it kind of sums up your project for you. And the impact, like she was saying, is one of the main things that you really want to focus on. So the purpose, your action, outcome of the project, and the impact.
Exactly. And, what we have within the L&D field is a little bit different with, some industry and business areas where they're actually building software, creating software, or building actual product items. Ours is more lengthy. It's not like in a week I can say, I created this many lesson plans, or I, trained this many people, because it'll vary from week to week and month to month as to, how big is the course you're building? How long does that really take? What percentage of this project have I completed this week? One of the big projects we have in our agency is we're finally in DISA's long history, finally bringing on board a holistic learning management system. We've been using disparate systems to bounce in and out of different systems to really be able to, one, provide training, and then two, measure success of training. But that doesn't, I can't put that in as a bullet. We got the LMS completed last week, because as we all know, that takes months of configuring, getting the requirements together, then figuring the system, getting the award, and then finally launching and training the managers for it. But yeah, being able to look at your bullets in that manner. And then, as we leverage the different agencies, that's pretty much what I did. I asked members of TOC what elements did they have. Noting you've networked or met with or partnered with or collaborated with other federal agencies to move your training accomplishments forward. That's another thing you can also include within your bullet. You worked with or partnered with or collaborated with other agencies. Leverage their knowledge to be able to do what you need to do within your own organization. And that was great comments. I thank you so much for all of that. And I had something else, but I completely lost it because I didn't write it down. But yeah, so I'll look to putting some more of these types of community practices on the schedule. Looking at the schedule, as you can see, we do have April 8th, which is 2 Tuesdays from now, on our Tuesdays with TOC. As I showed you earlier, a virtual development and delivery from Nikisha Walker from Veterans Administration. And so as you can see here, it tackles, urgent need for L&D professionals to transition from traditional training roles to strategic business partners, encouraging performance. So make sure you go in on the TOC website and go ahead and RSV for that. And then the following month, we're looking at the Discover and Discuss AI and the Kirkpatrick Model. So Vanessa also is going to be your speaker again, presenting that aspect, enhanced learning and performance evaluation. So both of those kind of tie into some of the discussions that we had today. So that will help propel and move you forward along those lines. And I think that's about all I have. We have gotten about 30 minutes early. So we budget about an hour and a half for this to make sure that we have enough time for discussion, especially for this type of format. And I'm so glad and so happy that a lot of you were able to unmute and discuss, and for the information we have in the chat as well. So thank you so much. Does anyone have any lasting comments or any lasting thoughts?
I'm looking forward to POC 25 in August.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Thank you, Denise. Yes, TOC 25. As I said, I'll bring up that screen again. TOC 25 will be moved to August over in the DC area. So Metro accessible. Unless you like driving in downtown DC, it's not my favorite thing in the world. I usually just go to my nearest metro station and Metro Inn. And yeah, I echo everything that Adam and Shanda has said. Thank you, everyone, for showcasing and sharing your knowledge, your practices that you've conducted within your agency. We're more than happy to hear, what you tried and failed and how you corrected that, as well as what you tried and succeeded at, some of those best practices as well. So thank you so much for, again, this exchange of ideas, thought, challenges, and how we can all come together to maneuver around those challenges. And I will try and get that email out to you guys later today. If not, worst case scenario, tomorrow. I see that. Okay, yeah. Changing from multiple systems to a more cohesive single system is an effective, efficient action. Yes. Yeah. It's just a long process, but it took the agency a while to approve us moving forward with this. I think I was shot down every year for 8 years. And you're welcome to everyone that joined today. I appreciate it. There will be, normally Zoom sends out a survey shortly after the conclusion of this. So please take some time. And we all like surveys. We all like getting feedback. So I appreciate everything that you put in there. And yes, have a great day and have a wonderful weekend.